Shalom and welcome to Jerusalem Studio. Today we have a special broadcast, and to start this broadcast we have prepared an article which we will watch together.
Flotilla. What is the first thought that comes to mind when hearing this word? A formation of different military vessels from past historic war times? Or a leisurely fleet of like-minded sailing enthusiasts embarking on a holiday trip? From Israel's perspective in recent years, this term is usually associated with different attempts by pro-Palestinian activists to break Israel's naval blockade on Gaza. This aerial naval blockade was formed in 2007, when the internationally recognized terrorist organization Hamas, which has vowed in its charter to wipe Israel off the world map, took control of the Palestinian enclave and began launching rockets towards the southern regions of the Jewish state. This prompted the State of Israel to enact measures to protect its civilian population. From then on, pro-Palestinian activists from different countries worldwide have launched numerous naval campaigns with the aim of breaking the blockade.
When we are going to Gaza, we are going with goods, but the most important thing is a message to the people of Gaza. You are not alone. We see you. We will not let it be silent in the world until the situation will be solved, until the blockade will be lifted. This is a solidarity message that is as important as the little goods that we can take. This is a humanitarian catastrophe because of political reasons, and it can be solved only by political measures.
We have been always calling upon the international community to put pressure on Israel to end this siege, and we always supported the official and popular efforts from the international community to help convincing or pressurizing Israel to end this siege.
The most famous of naval campaigns culminated on May 31, 2010, when Israeli commandos boarded 6 Turkish flotilla ships that had refused Israeli demands to change their destination from Gaza to the Ashdod port, where the ships were to be inspected.
You are approaching an area of hostilities, which is under a naval blockade. The Gaza area, coastal region, and Gaza harbor are closed to all maritime traffic. The Israeli government supports delivery of humanitarian supplies to the civilian population in the Gaza Strip and invites you to enter the Ashdod port.
On board one such ship, the MV Mavi Marmara, which sailed under the Comoros flag with over 500 activists, mostly Turkish, the Israeli forces were received with violent armed resistance and were forced to open fire, resulting in the death of 9 Turkish citizens. Israel considers its blockade on Gaza to be legal and in accordance with the international law. Its national policy does not allow any protest or humanitarian aid flotillas to reach Gaza. However, it does offer to direct them to Israeli ports and transfer the aid to Gaza by land after inspection.
The naval blockade on Gaza is legal and legitimate under a UN report, a report that was commissioned and adopted by the UN Secretary General. The importance of this blockade, the necessity of this blockade has been emphasized over the last few days by the intensification of rocket shooting from Gaza on Israeli civilians. These rockets have sown death and destruction on Israelis.
While many of the past flotillas originated from Sweden and had been organized by Swedish pro-Palestinian activists, some of the country's Christians feel it's time to change this lopsided chain of events. They want to present the world with a different narrative on Sweden, according to which there are people in the world and Swedes in Sweden that support the Jewish people and the State of Israel. For this reason, a number of Swedish Christians from different walks of life and different Christian denominations, headed by God-believing yacht captain Stefan Abramson, decided to organize a different kind of protest voyage. Thus, October 11th this year saw the first ever pro-Israeli mega yacht called Elida arrive from Gothenburg, Sweden, to the Israeli port of Herzliya. Operating under the slogan, Sailing for Jesus, the Swedes on board sailed in show of solidarity with the Jewish state and the persecuted Christians across the Middle East.
The people on board is different people from the Swedish community. There is businessmen, there is 4 priests from the Lutheran Church who say, hello, we want to support Israel. And there is politicians, many of them. There is ordinary Swedish people who say, hello, we have to do something. We have to say, hello, Israel, we want to support you.
Another example of those supportive voices for Israel on board Elida was Lutheran pastor Andres Peter Shadin.
I've had a love for Israel since I was a teenager. I came here first time 75, worked on a kibbutz Hukuk and kibbutz Gazit. Been coming back once in a while by myself or with my wife or with groups. And just to come and bless Israel and tell you that we love you. Israel is always criticized for everything. And once in a while to hear something different, I think it's good for everyone.
Among those welcoming Elida in the Herzliya harbor was Isaac Bachman, former Israeli ambassador to Sweden, who spoke on behalf of the Jewish state, which has become used to criticism from all levels of Swedish society. He expressed appreciation for the solidarity voyage of the Swedish Christians on board the Elida.
For Israelis, we got accustomed to a lot of criticism and a lot of analysis of what Israel does or doesn't, from Swedes, be it individuals, parties, political establishment, and so on and so forth. So for us to have somebody that takes the initiative and comes with a group of 50 Swedes on marine voyage of solidarity with Israel, it's a big thing. We look at it as something that should be very much appreciated, and this is what we do. We show our appreciation for such an initiative.
During the course of the voyage, at different pit stops in the European ports, the captain had to explain to puzzled authorities why Elida was heading towards Israel.
Many policemen and organizations around in different ports, they ask me, you should go to Israel, what's wrong with you? And then I answer them, where is the only place in Middle East I can go with a boat signed Sailing for Jesus? And then they stop up and start to think, hello, you're right, you have to go to Israel. And then I said to them, hello, think one turn more. Why can I go to Israel? Because Israel respects the human rights and all things what we say is good. So why shouldn't we support Israel? And always, when they start to think about it, oh yes, you are right, we have to do that. So many policemen are, oh, you do a good thing. Yes, we do a good thing.
Welcome back. With me in the studio to discuss the topic is Captain Stefan Abramson, who is also the organizer of the flotilla to Israel. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'd like also to welcome Reverend Magnus Haglund, who is a Lutheran minister in the Church of Sweden. Welcome. And I'd like also to welcome Ms. Karin Nitont, who is the PR representative of Elida and a coordinator of Pilgrim 2018. Welcome. So and our TV7 reporter, Ms. Monika Jagori, who also welcomed the Elida when they approached the Herzliya port. I'd like to start with a question to you, Captain Abramson. When we're talking about your voyage from Sweden to Israel, what led you to this decision to put your life on hold, take your yacht together with a crew of 52 Christians from Sweden, and make this long voyage to Israel in what you already declared as a support to the Jewish state and also in support of Christians persecuted across the Middle East?
Yeah, it's a long story, very long story. So it depends on how long story you like to have. But I growing up with a father who was very involved to helping Armenian Christian in the time when it was very tough for them. Mm-hmm. Growing up with a father who gave me the values of loving Israel, because of Israel is the foundation for all Christian faith. Mm. So I got it from the very beginning. Then some year later, I got a priest next to me working together, and he started to tell me, you have to go to Israel. And in one way, I always loved to go to Israel, but things moving on and you don't do anything. But last year when I was on the Jerusalem prayer breakfast, I was going around in between the sessions and took coffee on different coffee house, and I'm a person who like to speak to ordinary people wherever they are. So when I come in there, I have a sign on my from Knesset. And when the waiters look at my sign, he said, "You're a Christian from Sweden who loves Israel. Is that possible?" And the whole coffee house was become absolutely quiet, and they wait for my answer. So I say, we are a lot of people in Sweden who loves Israel, and we are here to pray Jewish and Christian people together for the peace of Jerusalem. And I think I represent a lot of people in Sweden. But in my mind, I start to think we have to do something. So when I come home from that time in Jerusalem, it starts to work. We have to sail to Israel. We have to show ordinary, normal people here that there is a lot of Swedish people who loves Israel. And we have to change the attitude towards Israel in our country. So since that time, it has been a procedure until today.
Well, I'd like to ask Reverend Hunglen, when we're talking about the Church of Finland, of Sweden, sorry, we're talking about quite a big church or a big organization representing Sweden, but at the same time, when you arrived in Israel, together with the Elida yacht, also the board of directors of the Church of Sweden was in Israel, but with a different agenda in mind. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how does actually the Church of Sweden think about Israel and approach this topic?
I'd say that the Church of Sweden, the board of the Church of Sweden, I can't speak for every one of them, but my guess is that they view Israel more of a secular political point of view, and not as a fulfillment of the biblical promises made by God to the Jewish people. Whereas I see the return of the Jewish people, the establishment of Israel, as a fulfillment of the prophetic words in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And since Sweden in the political arena is very pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel, that political view is what is governing or running in the Church of Sweden too.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I'm in the opposition.
I see. Well, Ms. Nitomet, being the PR coordinator or representative for the Elida, to what degree did you receive positive responses back home in Sweden as well as here in Israel, or was there somewhat of an opposition to your voyage?
Well, it's not opposition, I would say, but it certainly is a big difference between the reception in Israel and at home in Sweden. Already before we even left Sweden, we had Israeli media outlets contacting us, and they wanted both to do live interviews in TVs, but also articles. So the main media outlets in Israel all made great stories about us about to leave Sweden. And we tried to engage the Swedish press as well, but no one took the bite.
Mm-hmm.
But and then we knew very little as we set out on the voyage what would happen when we came here. We just thought, well, we might do something and go visit some places, but we had no idea what we were coming into, and we were completely overwhelmed. First of all, by the flotilla that met us out at sea, but then the interest from the media news coverage here in Israel. It's been totally overwhelming, and it's been amazing. However, at the same time, even though we've been trying, send press releases and telling the Swedish news outlet what's happening here, it's completely silent.
To follow up on that, as we saw in the article, the pro-Palestinian flotillas had a press conference, a lot of press came, was very keen on knowing more about it.
Yeah.
Why is the representation of that side of the spectrum, or of the narrative, if you will, so much more interesting to the Swedes than actually coming here with a positive attitude towards Israel, and also in support of Christian persecution or Christians that are persecuted in the Middle East, which unfortunately is an ongoing phenomenon?
As far as the last part, that is why we do this sail, because it's a complete quietness ruling in the West, what's happening to the Christians in the Middle East. So that's one part of the reason for the sale. As for the other part, I think because it goes along the same lines as the political atmosphere in Sweden, what is in the news. And these are the things that Swedes are known to read about and to hear about. And it just confirms the attitudes that people have and the knowledge that they have, or knowledge so-called. And we don't fit in there. We don't fit the picture because we come from a different perspective. And instead of being open and showing different sides, it's easier for the media to just continue on the same current that they always followed.
I'd like to return to you, Reverend Haglund. When we're talking about the Christian persecution in particular, obviously, we would like to know more about the statistics and the facts on the ground. So when we're looking at Bethlehem, for instance, a city well known for being the birthplace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, as well as currently under the rule of the Palestinian Authority. But some very specific statistics, which is quite interesting, is that when Israel gave over the administrative authority from its own control to the Palestinians, Christian population in Bethlehem was about a little bit more than 80%. Today in 2018, we have less than 21% currently being Christian or defined as Christian in Bethlehem. Obviously, a significant deterioration just in one city out of many others. How is that perceived in Sweden as well as in the Church of Sweden, which indicates and is very vocal about its support for the Palestinians over the Israelis?
Unfortunately, it's not a question that is brought up that often. The situation of the Christians in the Palestinian Authority, we don't often talk about it, and instead people are focusing on the wrongdoings of Israel that they want to be brought up. So I don't think that people in Sweden realize the catastrophic situation for Christians in the Middle East, and definitely not in the Palestinian areas.
Well, Captain Abramson, obviously you came here in support of Israel and also the Christians. Israel is actually the only country in the Middle East where the Christian community is growing, as opposed to other countries. To what degree does that signal to you and to others the significance of religious liberties here in the country?
Yeah, you know, it's very similar to Sweden. You can have which faith you want in Israel as you can in Sweden. So it's an open community, and that's one thing we really love with Israel. I have a friend in Gaza Strip. I met him first time 1 year ago on the prayer breakfast, and we have a talk. He's working for the Catholic Church, and he is born in Gaza. And he told me that when he, for 5 years ago, there was 3,000 members of the Catholic Church in Gaza Strip, and now in June there were less than 100. And it's interesting to hear a person explain the things, because if that is nothing we can read in the Western media. And he also tried to have a kind of statistic of Gaza Strip, and he says it's less than 1,000 Christians there today. And if you see before they started self-steering in this area, it was something about 40 to 50,000 Christians total in the Gaza Strip area.
Obviously, this continues to fluctuate, and unfortunately, it deteriorates the longer the time passes. Ms. Yaguri, you went there to welcome the Elida when they arrived. What was your experience to see also the Israelis joining that fleet coming in to the port of Herzliya, as well as the people welcoming this? To what degree were they surprised to a certain degree, or was it more of a joyous moment that they were expecting?
Well, some of the ladies that we happened to interview over there, they just said that they dropped everything. They left their work and they decided they just will come and go sail with us. and to meet them. And in the beginning, when we started out, like maybe it was an hour before your arrival, so there wasn't too many around. And then we met you on the sea and came back, and then over the course of this arrival to the Herzliya harbor, then I think I counted at least 60, and I've heard that somebody counted maybe 70 tiny little yachts and bigger ones and speedboats and all
Even
kinds of things.
windsurfers.
Yes, everybody was there. And then they said, yes, that they just had to drop everything because this doesn't happen every day, that somebody comes to Israel and says that they love them. Most people in the world, they hate them or they are indifferent or whatever. So lots of people expressed their support, and most of them on the sea.
Ms. Nitomt, what was the most impressive response you received the moment you arrived?
The complete joy from the people. People were crying. People were shouting from both the ships and from the quayside, "We love you, thank you for coming." And I think we somewhat expected that people would be happy, but not to this amazing extent. It was, I had to pinch myself, and it was hard to really take it in and how much it meant. And over this week, there's been hundreds and hundreds of Israelis coming on board because we've had open ship every day for the public. And they're becoming and just seeing us, meeting us, and people have literally been crying and thanking us for coming and showing some other view of Sweden, but also people who actually dare to stand up and say, we stand together with you, we walk with you, and we love this country, and we love what you're standing for, and we're not here to criticize, but to show solidarity and support with you. And it's someone, I think in the crew said, it's like they've been starved from appreciation from Sweden, but from Northern Europe or other countries. And it's like just feeding love into a starved person. And again, I say it is overwhelming.
Captain Abramson, to what degree do you see this as a successful voyage, and would you try to do this again in the future, or what do you have in store?
Yeah, I see it as a start or a beginning of something, because of, we see ourselves as a very small organization. We are a small organization with a good network. And I think that what we have to do is networking with all Christian communities and Jewish community as well, to start a new era of friendship towards Israel. And this summer, just before we depart for going to Israel, we have a group of 42 young people on board. They're coming from a non-Christian environment, sailing with us for 1 week. And then one day I said to them, we should have 2 Israelis on board to join us on this trip. And you can see the skepsis, like this. But they was on board to a young couple on their honeymoon on board on Elida together with 42 others. That's a nice way of have honeymoon. But anyhow, when they told about Israel and how to live here and so on, and they become friends, and see after 4 or 5 days when they should go home again, all the 42 youngsters stand in line to give them a hug and tell them that they love them. So it's a kind of attitude changing, and we have an idea now for following year to always have some Israelis on board, because of in that way we can change the way of thinking. And I believe also that we are coming back, not only us, but we try to even get more boats.
Reverend Höglund, to what degree the moment you return to Sweden will be this actually perceived as a voyage of protest also for the Christian communities that are persecuted in the Middle East? Will this come up to the headlines in Sweden, or will this remain a taboo topic that people rather not talk about?
I think that it will be in the Christian newspapers that our trip here will be reported. Thus far, it's been the Christian papers reporting it and not the other ones. It probably will remain like that, unfortunately. But for us, this is important because we make a stand, we make a statement, both as supporters of the State of Israel, of the Jewish people, and this is a way of showing that we are aware of the situation for the Christian minorities in the Middle East. So hopefully, on a personal level, meeting people, this will be a way to bring it up.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have also another thing. We try also to support young people to become politicians. Because I used to say to every young people that don't become an idiot, because idiot come from Greece, the Greek language, and it's mean a person who don't care about the politics. And I think that Christian young people need to start to become active, because we can't change on the inside the church. We need to step out in the society and stand for something. And this is something we really have to teach people to stand.
Making a stand for our belief and faith, that's indeed a very important factor of who we are and what we do here.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you, Ms. Nitomt, when we're talking about the future voyages, obviously now you had 52 sailors on board, if I may call them like that.
Yeah.
To what degree is this a reoccurring statement? Of course, this was the first time, an exciting time. Will this return and repeat itself in the future?
I believe we will do more sales to Israel, yes. We don't know if we're going to make it next year, but we will definitely have more sales to come up in the future, because this is an important statement. We see that, and it might be of different nature. Maybe another time we can make more stops in different ports along the way and have meetings with both media, but people in different ports, and talk about these issues. Why is it important with both of these two issues of standing up for the Christian minorities in the Middle East, but also to support Israel, which is the only democracy in the Middle East, protecting the Christian ideas and their rights. If we can meet different peoples in different ports, that might be another kind of upsale that we could be able to do.
Ms. Jaguri, do you think that this will be also an opportunity to unite different countries and see also countries like Finland or Estonia join the voyage with yachts from there, for instance?
Absolutely.
It is quite the intriguing interest of seeing this materialize in the future. I'd like to thank you, Captain Abramson, Reverend Hagland, Ms. Nitomt, and Ms. Jaguri for being here today and sharing your story of this voyage with us. And I'd like to thank our viewers as well, and we will see you next time.
Olet juuri katsonut Jerusalem Studio-ohjelman. Mikäli ohjelma oli sinusta antoisa, voit tukea Heaven TV 7 Jerusalemia. Soita 0600 10177 tai käytä ruudun viitenumeroa. Lahjoittaa voi myös PayPalin kautta. Lahjoituksesi mahdollistaa Jerusalem Studion.